Decision making is entirely essential, simply because most of us have a major decision to make in life that we aren't making. And when we look at what that decision is, then it allows us to line up our purpose, to line up our energy, to line up the action, to go for what we want in life. But if we just stay without making that decision, one gets made for us. And it's often by the persuasion of somebody else when we don't make that decision. Yeah, a lot of my clients, they're making good money in corporate America, but they're not alive in their work. They're dragging themselves out of bed. I've had many clients who never see the daylight. They go to work in darkness, pull into a garage, come home in darkness, pull into their garage. And there's no life in between, just like there's no light in between. So how can they embrace the possibility of doing what they love and still making the money that they're now earning? They have to believe that, and they have to believe that they were put here for a purpose. We're all unique, and there was no kidding around about that uniqueness. We were meant to shine in the way that only we can shine. So the only way to make that move, to get things rolling, is to actually jump into it and see how they feel when they're coming fully alive in their work. Yeah, I'm pretty good at getting people off the dime for some reason. And I think it's because when people hold back from making that big decision to get started on their own business, they're really more worried about somebody else, what the people at the company will think of them, what their legacy there is, the effect of them leaving, and they're not really putting themselves first. So what I allow them to do is see the benefits of doing what they love for themselves, to honor themselves and their family first. And when they begin to feel that possibility and live their way into it, it's enough energy to get them to make that decision. Yeah, fear's a funny thing, because when you look at it, it's an illusion. It really isn't. There isn't any meat to it. There isn't any concreteness to it. It's just what we project into the future, and we see a scary future instead of a future where we're standing tall and doing what we want to do. So if we keep looking at that scary future, we're going to be scared. Instead, we have to look into our mind and feed it with the kind of things that we want rather than what we don't want. And when somebody's afraid, they're thinking mostly about what they don't want. Yeah, it is all good. Everything that's ever happened to you. Every trial, every challenge, every blessing, every experience, every rotten person you've met, everything, good and bad, is really all good because it came into your life. It came into your path for you to see what you wanted. If it's not what you want, then you have the gift of contrast. You can see that it's there to show you what you need to choose and what you want. And yeah, I'm sure you've heard the term blessing in disguise. Well, here's the thing. Life doesn't happen to us. Life happens for us. And if we believe that everything in life happens for us, then there's some value to be realized from that. And that's a gift. Yeah, I sometimes think I was born about 150 years too late. I see myself on a Scottish hillside in a kilt, kind of being somebody's champion, standing tall. Honor used to mean something back then. A man's word was his bond. When he stood for somebody, he stood for somebody. They said things like, I am your man, I am your woman. So there is a sacred nature because I'm pulling out of you, pulling out of the coaching client, how you can live open-hearted, in full energy of who you really are. And I need to see that space of what it would be like for you and hold that space when you fully are honoring yourself. So I assume that role from the beginning. I'm your champion. Most people don't know what it's like to have somebody stand there back to back and cover them and hold them up and support them while they ease in to the life they really want to live. So it is a sacred calling. That's so funny to me all the time. Everybody keeps thinking, I would go into business for myself, but I don't know what business to open. What should I do? What should I do? I don't know how to do it. And they're asking all the wrong questions. It doesn't matter if you're going to be a butcher, baker, candlestick maker. You don't need to find that out first. You have to find out first who you are. What brings you alive in the doing of it? What wild-ass personality traits are just so much you that nobody else could operate in that venue? Who you are on a core level. Your higher self, your soul. What is that part of you saying? Your strengths that only you can express. The values that you hold dear. When you know who you are and then what your heart desires, a picture begins to form. And that picture is the vision of the work you'll be doing. So what I do in my work is I help people see all the possibilities. Everything that comes into their mind that they ever thought they might like to do. And then we milk that for the value. And the real value in those possibilities, is the actual feeling of what appeals to them the most from each one. If a guy wants to be a consultant, what appeals to him about being a consultant? A lady wants a dress shop, what appeals to her about owning that dress shop? That's the value. And we can look at themes from all those possibilities and put it together. And here's the secret. Most callings are not discovered. They don't exist as something that somebody else has already thought up and is sitting there on a silver platter waiting for you. Your calling doesn't come with horns and wings of angels and brilliant light out of the sky like most people think. Most callings, you do the work of deciding who you are, what you want, you work on the vision, you work on what appeals to you, and you create the calling. You create a calling that will allow you to shine uniquely. Self-promotion is interesting. We're taught things like don't toot your own horn, and that's crazy. Who's going to toot my horn if I don't toot it? You're not going to. People have way too much to do in their own lives to worry about promoting other people. And it's the reason people hesitate to self-promote is it scares them. When you self-promote, you're saying, I'm good. You're saying, I can deliver. You're not selling somebody else's stuff, putting a little space between you and that. You're saying, here I am, this is what I have, I'm a merchant, pay me money for this powerful service that I'm about to deliver. And that's a scary thing for a lot of people. Yet that's the only thing that will give them the support, because that's where they're standing there uniquely, waiting for the gifts of that service. It's interesting. Everybody always says, I'll be all right, I'll figure it out. Here's the thing. We have 4 realms of our power in which to create. Figuring it out, obviously, that's the intellectual realm. What we think, what we say, what we imagine. The physical realm is the action that we take. The emotional realm is where we get our drive or energy, how we feel about something. And the spiritual realm has nothing to do with religion. It's actually what gives us deep meaning in our life. So when someone says they need to figure it out, that's exactly the opposite of what they ought to be doing. They're way too much in their head. They need to get into their body, get in action, because action clarifies. Action engages. Action gives us the opportunity to see what works and what doesn't. And a mistake is not a big deal. That's our school system. That's our parents judging mistakes. A drop a glass of milk. I mean, what's the big deal? A glass breaks. Milk gets on the floor. You clean it up. What it shows, a mistake shows what not to do the next time. It's just, think of a dartboard or an archery. It's just missing the mark by a little bit. Not every shot hits the bullseye, but the mistake gives us valuable information. So I would say, if you're afraid of acting, you're afraid of living. And if you don't put yourself in play, you're not even in the game. You're not even on the sidelines. You're not even in the stadium. You're just thinking about it at home and trying to work it out in your head, and you'll never figure it all out. Act. That's the only lifesaver. Here's the interesting thing about urgency. We try to think about things far too long before we act. Inspiration is what comes to us from that soul, from that heart place, from our divine connection. We actually feel alive with the action when we're inspired to act. So the way I use urgency and inspiration is with various coaching exercises that allows the conscious mind to just shut up. We trick it into silence. Because you know that mind. You have a great idea 1 second, 3 seconds later the mind's saying, well, that won't work. Would I really make money at that? Oh, gee, no, that's not for me. What, am I stupid? And that judging, editing mind rushes in to tell us it's not good. That's our ego. That's our ego that is fighting change at all costs. Where essentially what we have to do is invite the change or be inspired so much that that part of our mind doesn't even come in. And sometimes the speed of urgency in various exercises tricks our conscious mind into being silent. So the brilliance can come out from within enough to see the light of day, and when we can say, yeah, that is good. I'm going to do that. Wow. Yeah. How does a transformation happen? I have a client now who was putting something off for 20 years. Something in her personal life. 20 years. And afraid every time she saw it, every time she saw something on television or read something in a book that reminded her of this, she was afraid. So she knew she needed the change. She knew what she wanted. She was clear about that. She just didn't know how to get there. And it starts, radical transformations start with one small step. And you step into it and you complete it and you look around and see, how do I see myself? What do I realize about myself now that I couldn't say before I took that step? And then you take another and another. And before long, you look around and you're a different person than when you started. You're someone who follows through. You're someone who honors the desires of your own heart. And that's very, very important, to honor the desires of your own heart. What is in your heart has come straight from God's heart to yours. And to turn your back on it, to not follow through, that's like turning your back on divine creation. Yeah, you got to find the opening. Just like a running back running to daylight, you got to see the opening. You got to see the cracks. You got to see where is a better life, even temporarily, that someone can step into that they didn't see themselves. And I use intuition a lot in my coaching. I've been gifted with it. That's probably why I'm a coach. And I used to, since I'm a big guy and I'm a rugby player, and I used to shy away from explaining this to people. I didn't talk about that gift. But what I found is I'm honor bound to talk about my intuition and how it works. And it works like this. When I engage someone in a sacred covenant of the coaching contract, they know what they want. They're stuck. They know they want to start over, but they don't know how to get there. And something happens because I'm all in with my listening ability. I'm all in with my heart. And my higher self, my soul, I believe, begins speaking to their soul on their behalf. And that's what I pick up as intuitive hits. Their desires come through in that kind of a space where they don't come through otherwise.